Welcome home, everyone. I'm Angela Rye, a host of Native Land Pod, and it is SoloPod Day. There is so much going on in the world, and we will get into so many of those topics on Thursday for our main show. Today, I have the opportunity, the privilege, and the pleasure to speak to someone who is a dear brother, a dear friend to me. He is a civil and human rights attorney. He has long represented the survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre, also known as Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Greenwood, as many of you know as well. He is the founder and executive director of Justice for Greenwood. And today we're going to get into a discussion about reparations, his upcoming book that will be available for pre-order very soon. And so let's bring Damario Solomon-Simmons to the stage. Thank you so much. Hey, D.
What's going on, Angela? Good to see you as always.
Thank you. Good to see you virtually too. Well, first, I want to hear about this new book that you are dropping because it is so timely, so important. We are living in a day and age where, we fact-free debates, alternative facts, erasing of history. So,
Right.
Redeem a Nation feels like a really appropriate title for a really challenging time. Talk to us a little bit about the book.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Been working on it over 4 years. RedeemerNationBook.com. You can go there. The book, as you stated, we're all feeling it, Angela. We all feeling that America's going to a place, particularly in our lifetime, that has never been to. And one of the main arguments I'm making in my book is to redeem this country, you must have reparatory justice for Black people. That's the only way you're going to ever have a country that it says it is on paper. If you don't redeem and have reparatory justice for Black people, it will not happen. And when I talk about redeem a nation, I'm talking about getting us back to a place that we have never been before. We've never been redeemed.
Right.
The only way it can actually occur if there is real repair. And then that repair will allow us to become the nation that we say on paper we want to be. People talk about democracy and this and that. There is no democracy without reparatory justice for Black people. And what I'm excited about the book, as I outline and explain to people, get behind the scenes of my 25 plus years of fighting for reparations, both here for the Tulsa Race Massacre and in general, but also in my Think Greenwood principles, which you and I have talked about, where I really lay out a plan of action that any Black community can utilize to create the type of Greenwoods we need. So a lot of people think when they think about Greenwood, they think about, like you said, Black Wall Street, which is fine, but Black Wall Street was just a part of Greenwood. The real story is the community of Greenwood. And that community was created by five specific principles. And the first was community love. We need that more than ever in today's world. The second was the freedom mind state. The third was ownership, and not just ownership of tangible things, but ownership of ourselves, ownership of our mentality, ownership of where we want to go in life. Number four, we had education and wealth concentration. And number five was our real resilience. And these are things I'm talking about in the book because we're going to need all of those as we continue to go in this MAGA 2.0 world.
It's timely because it's the holiday season. Black folks in this country sometimes also celebrate Kwanzaa. So I like the fact that the Think Greenwood principles are closely aligned with the principles of Kwanzaa. So hopefully folks can get the book. Where can they get it, D, and is it available now for purchase?
It's available now for pre-order. Go to RedeemerNationBook.com, RedeemerNationBook.com. Get your pre-order. If you pre-order now during this holiday season, my publisher is going to provide you an expedited chapter about the book. So the book actually publishes Tuesday, May 12th, 2026, which is just a few weeks before the 105th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre. So yeah, it's very, very timely. And I tell you, Angela, you know about writing a book. I was wanting this out a long time ago, but I'm really happy that it's coming out right now, right before the anniversary and the midterms. I think it's going to be something that's going to really move our community forward.
I'm waiting on editor's notes right now. So you are ahead of me, my friend, as you know. I will just say to you that it's also very timely because we lost a heroine from the Tulsa Race Massacre with Mother Fletcher and all that she's done to make sure that she kept the Tulsa Race Massacre at the front of our minds and of our hearts. I want you just to talk a little bit about Mother Fletcher for those who do not know her, did not have the privilege of hearing her story. Can you please just share a little bit about Mother Fletcher giving her recent passing?
Yeah, and thank you for that. It's been about 2 weeks, and honestly, the pain is still there. Mother Fletcher, Viola Fletcher, we call her Mother Fletcher, was 111 years old. She was the oldest living survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre. She was born in 1914. She was an extraordinary woman who, really, if you think about it, Angela, she lived the entire arc of Black people in this country, right? Born in a great community of Greenwood and got to enjoy a little bit of that before she had to run for her life on a horse and buggy with her family where everything was destroyed. Therefore, she didn't get to get her education. They were sharecroppers. Then she grows up as a Jim Crow. She's dealing with being a domestic worker for over 70 years, working for pennies, literally, not getting the proper pension that she needed. And yet, despite all of that heartache, she still volunteered during World War II to work in shipyards in San Diego, California, building Navy ships. She still raised a family. She still became a grandmother and a great grandmother and an auntie. And then in her twilight years, when I met her, as you know, Angela, I've been working on this for a long time. So I've known literally over a couple hundred survivors I've represented. But I didn't meet Mother Fletcher until 2020. When I met her, she was 106 years old, living by herself, living on her own. And she could have easily said, look, let me just live out my life. I'm good. But she decided, no, I want to get justice because every night I still see the bodies in the street. I still can feel the flames and see the flames. And this lady was relentless, committed to the cause, not for herself. She would always say, hey, I'm over 100, but for her family, but for the broader Black community. She never missed a court date. We had several court dates she never missed. She flew to Washington, D.C. on 3 occasions. She testified in Congress on May 19, 2021. We met the Vice President, Kamala Harris. You helped that happen, Angela. Thanks again. She came back to D.C. in 2023 to meet with the Department of Justice to push for our investigation. She told me one time early on, I said, Mother Fletcher, what can we do for you? Something you always wanted to do. She said, I always wanted to go to Africa. And she went to Africa. We were able to, the community, get her to Africa with her little brother, Hughes Van Ellis. She went over to Africa at 107 years old, spent 2.5 weeks. The lady was amazing. On her 111th birthday, which was last May 10th, we sang happy birthday to her. And we were in this packed restaurant, 100 people there. We sing the happy birthday, the Black version, of course. And at the end, we just started clapping, but she grabbed my shoulder, my arm and said, you forgot to say and many more. I say that to say this lady was full of energy. I was with her. She died on Monday, the 23rd. I was with her Friday night, that Friday before the hospital, right next to her hospital bed. And she was engaged. She was talking. And she was someone that was still wanting to see justice to her dying day. Yeah. So, that's our charge here. If nothing else, we want to make sure that we continue to push forward because we got Viola Fletchers all over this country.
Yes.
We got Viola Fletchers in our families. We need to continue to fight for them. And that's what it means to redeem a nation. That's what it means to think Greenwood. That's what it means to fight for reparatory justice.
I think it's so important in this work, to just deepen into the humanity for a second. You said something that I never really considered. You've been working on restorative and reparative justice for the survivors and the descendants of Black Wall Street for as long as I can remember. And I've known you since law school. Can you talk about how many people you've lost in this fight and what that feels like to you, knowing that, yes, there's been a local solve, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but there's not been this federal recognition. You heard from the former president that he was going to do something about it. That didn't happen. I want you to talk about, just for a moment, the humanity. Like, I already know your rage. You and I can go toe to toe at the rage level, but just like what that impact is like when you think about all the people you've come to know in this work. They're gone. They didn't get to see justice before they passed. What does that feel like to you?
Wow, man, powerful question. And something I talk about in the book a lot is the human side of it, because being out front, being a leader, and all that, you always want to project and be strength and be on. But you're right. I mean, so many people just come to mind. I saw one of our mentors, Charles Ogletree. He wasn't a survivor or descendant, but he was someone who poured his last 15 years of his professional life. He poured into this work, and poured into us so much. And he's gone. You think about people like Otis Clark, who was 109 when he died back in 2007, and Dr. Olivia Hooker, who was over 104, I think, when she died, and the first African American female in the Coast Guard, and just I travel with these folks so much. I mean, Wes Young, it's just so many names, and to know that they all died without justice.
Mm.
And as you know, Angela, when I grew up here in Tulsa, I went to middle school on Greenwood Avenue. Never heard about the massacre. I didn't learn about the massacre until I went to the University of Oklahoma playing football, 1997. And so at that point, it sparked something in me to say, okay, we're going to make sure people never forget about this. But it also, for our survivors, they all thought very strongly that once the conspiracy of silence was broken, that now that the world would know what actually happened, understand that 1,550 homes was burnt down, that over $1 billion in property damage, that 8,000 people were made homeless, that 3,000 people disappeared, etc. They believed strongly, Angela, that justice would come, and it didn't.
Mm.
And that really hurts me deeply because they deserve that. And it also says, what does it say about our standing as Black people in this country?
Mm.
That you can have the worst ever race massacre that's on video, that has hundreds of pictures, that has hundreds of insurance claims, that no one disputes to happen. And yet the local, the state, and the federal government said we're not going to do anything about it. What does that say about our standing as full citizens, right? The Equal Protection Clause, the 14th Amendment that's trying to be repealed. What does that say about us right now? And those things are, it's difficult and hurtful on a personal level, but when I think about our people, we got such a long way to go. And that's why I say reparatory justice is the barometer.
Yeah.
If America can actually be a democracy, if America can actually be what it says on paper.
You know, the thing that comes to mind now is the number of folks who say, why would you continue in this fight? They're never going to do this. And it's not white people saying this. It's not Latino people saying this. It's not indigenous folks saying this. These are Black folks who say, you know, we're wasting your time. There's no reason for us to be, you know, trying to get reparations. We need to move beyond it. It's time to go past this, right? What do you say to people who say that ignorant, you know what? I'm not going to cuss because you don't. So I'm going to be on my best behavior today. But I want to know what you say to people who really don't think that we should have a dog in this fight anymore, even though it is absolutely rightfully ours.
I would say a couple of things. One, they don't know their own history and they don't respect their ancestors. I mean, our people from the day we got on this continent, be it if we were indigenous folks, like Black indigenous folks who were enslaved, or folks coming from Africa who were enslaved. From day one, we've been fighting for our humanity, we're fighting for our dignity, and fighting for our just compensation. So if you're willing to say, I don't care about what my ancestors fought for, I don't care about what's owed to us, then I really don't know. We're not the same.
Mm-hmm.
We're not the same. Secondly, it is a very function, again, are we equal underneath the law or not? And if we're equal underneath the law, then we are owed compensation for what happened to us, not just the physical labor, but what was taken from us, the narratives that were taken from us, the spiritual breakdown from us. I explain it like this. People that love the NFL, right? I'm a football guy. The NFL believes
I would have
in
never guessed with those two footballs sitting behind you, D.
I talk about this. The NFL believes in reparations. Jerry Jones believes very strongly in reparations. If Jerry Jones, let me explain what I mean. In the NFL, if you are the best team, you pick last in the draft the next year. If you're the worst team, you pick what? You pick first in the draft. That's reparations. So if Jerry Jones and these billionaire NFL owners can care about reparations, you don't want to care about reparations for your people, your community that's actually owed. And then thirdly, reparations sometimes get so esoteric, I think. People don't realize it's just as simple as someone hitting your car from behind and damaging your car, breaking your leg, causing you to miss time from work. Well, obviously they got to pay to fix your car. Obviously they need to pay to fix, get your leg fixed. Obviously they need to pay for the time off from work, and they need to pay some pain and suffering. It's just that simple. So if you're saying you don't believe that we deserve reparations or we should fight reparations, you don't believe that Black folks are full citizens of the United States of America.
Okay, let me ask you this. I don't like the devil, but I'm going to be his advocate for 1 second because I do believe
Right.
this is the devil speaking when they do this. What about the folks who are like, okay, but you're talking about if your car was hit and you were injured, but we're talking about your great great grandparent who was injured. Why do you deserve to receive what they didn't?
Because the injury is a continuing harm.
Mm,
And this is exactly what we talked about in our litigation for 4 years, the continuing harm. So again, if we use the massacre as an example, the massacre is just the event that
mhm.
started the harm. Oh, let me use another
The
example.
impetus.
Right. Let me use another example. You
Mhm.
remember back during the Obama administration, I think it was 2011, where we had that big explosion in the Gulf of Mexico, the BP explosion, and all that oil was just shooting out
Mhm.
underneath the water, billions of millions of gallons of oil. So that's the impetus. That's like the massacre happening. That's
Yeah.
the injuring event. But that oil, even though they plugged that hole within, a couple of weeks, but that oil continued to contaminate. It continued to kill wildlife. It continued to contaminate the air. It can continue to contaminate the water. It can continue to cause people to lose their livelihood. And it continued for years and years and years. And guess what? It's still continuing. And that's the same thing with the massacre. It's the same thing with enslavement. It's the same thing with any of these issues, urban renewal that destroyed families, stopped wealth, broke up communities. That harm is ongoing. Until you
Yeah.
repair the harm is ongoing. And I think we don't have really understand sometimes what that harm is, or we don't want to accept that we are still a harm people. I know some people say, stop being a victim. Well, I was victimized.
Yeah.
My parents were victimized. My grandparents were victimized. So it's not like we're going to stop doing what we're doing. Look, we're still fighting every day, but you still owe us. Last thing I would say, do you know, well, two things. One, when the Emancipation Proclamation came out, well, first they did in 1862, they made enslavement illegal in Washington, D.C., and they paid reparations to the enslavers in Washington,
Right.
D.C. But in England, when they outlawed enslavement, uh, they passed a bill, I think it was 1833, 1832. I talk about this in the book. They actually paid reparations to enslavers, and that payment lasted up to like 2015 until the last payments were paid out. Okay, I'm going to say that again. From 1833
2015.
to 2015. And so they understand what it means. Look at Haiti. Haiti had to pay reparations for getting their own freedom from the 1800s all the way up to like 1940. So I want what everybody else in the world has. I want full justice. I want equal protection underneath the law.
And recognition. Like if you can apologize, certainly you can repair. But
Well,
this country not ready for that.
oh man,
Well, that's what they say. I
I'll tell
reject
you,
that actually.
in many, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, no. I'm mumbling. I'm saying like they say the country's not ready for it, but I reject that actually.
Oh, this country's ready for it. This country's pay reparations to Japanese Americans. This country pay
Mhm.
reparations to Native Americans that was owed. This country's pay reparations to the state of Israel. This country's pay reparations all around. It just becomes to black folks that is a problem. And I think more black folks. I'm glad you asked the question, and we're addressing our own community. More of us will make an uncompromising stance that reparatory
Yes.
justice is due, and make that one of our top issues. Is not saying we're not going to vote if you don't do this, do reparatory justice, but make it one of our top issues that we push and be uncompromising, that we're owed like these other people groups across the world and in this country.
So this year, there was, as a result of a historic election in Tulsa, you saw a sea change for the first time that went beyond recognition, beyond an apology, beyond a committee that is, smoke and mirrors.
Right.
You saw some actual shifts happening. Can you talk a little bit about your work with the mayor of Tulsa and what happened as a result of his election?
Yeah, shout out Mayor Monroe Nichols, the first African American mayor in the city of Tulsa history. We have been working for a long time, known him a long time. He's a state legislator, and I, campaigned for him, pushed him to get elected. But I told him every step of the way, hey, as soon as you get in the mayor's office, I'm gonna be at your doorstep, and I was. And we presented to him what was called Project Greenwood, which you can learn more about in the book, but also at justiceforgreenwood.org. Project Greenwood, which was our 13-point plan for comprehensive reparations. We worked on that with him for a number of months. He didn't accept everything we wanted, but he did accept about 6 of our proposals, including making Tulsa June 1st, Tulsa Race Massacre Reparation Commemorance Day. Which, Angela, you said something very interesting, acknowledgement. One thing I found out in this work is that as much as people want to be compensated for sure, they also want to be acknowledged
Yeah.
for what happened. And so to have in law that this day will be a citywide holiday to commemorate the massacre, particularly in this time of erasure of Black history, is huge. He also put forth a $105 million private trust that will provide scholarships to massacre descendants. It will provide business grants, grants to our surviving entities. We had 12 surviving entities of the massacre, so they would be eligible for these grants. They will also provide grants for business owners who are descendants. Also, it's $24 million in there is going to be provided for housing in the Greenwood community. And there's some other aspect. He released over 45,000 documents that we have been suing the city for years to receive.
Mm.
And so, we made a lot of progress, and we really appreciate Mayor Nichols for his leadership and stepping out. As we continue to push him to do more, we still want for those outstanding claims, over $200 million worth of claims to be paid. We still want for those who suffered the harm that we know were killed, like Dr. A.C. Jackson. We still want compensation for those things, and we will do both things at the same time. We can advocate while working with someone at the same time, and I encourage all of our listeners, all of your listeners, to remember that. Be steadfast, but it's okay to also work with someone and continue to push them.
And that I think is so important. We've gotten to the place, I don't know when the shift happened. I'm going to argue maybe 2008 when people started becoming fans of politicians rather than the folks who pay them. I think of President Obama, who, was in the limelight, had a ton of fanfare. Folks were so excited, including me, about electing the first Black president. But in that excitement, I think we lost our ability to truly hold our elected officials' feet to the fire and require something from their service. And so, to that point, there's another elected official from the state of California, Governor Gavin Newsom, who has received a ton of fanfare because he has been one of Donald Trump's chief trolls. But he's also trolling us, Damario, because he vetoed several bills that were part of a reparations package earlier this year. I talked about it on the podcast 2 days after the veto, and your cousins were hot. They were so mad at me because they think that I should not criticize Donald Trump's chief troll. But if somebody is not doing right by Black people, I don't care if they green, white, purple, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, or Jill Stein Green Party. Like, I got equal heat for you. So I'm curious to know, when you consider Gavin Newsom's veto of preferential, admission. They have legacy admissions, but that is still in effect. Housing, like there were so many programs that would have been beneficial and additive to Black people who are the descendants of enslaved people in this country. He vetoed those very tactical, clear programs. Some of them didn't cost anything, like that preferential admission piece to California state colleges. And then you look at Wes Moore in the state of Maryland, Maryland's first Black governor, who vetoed a study. And so I want to know if you've contrasted between the two vetoes and or a package of vetoes and a veto over here, and whether or not there's something for us to learn in our approach in challenging those two governors who are also likely to be 2028 contenders.
Well, first I'll start by saying you're absolutely right that people don't understand that politicians are tools. They're not our friends. I talk about this extensively in the book, that politics in general is about who gets what, when, where, and how much. And so when you understand that and understand that politicians are not our friends, they are tools, they are delivery mechanisms. So we should be able to criticize them anytime we feel like they're not giving us the resources that we deserve. And so the fact that Gavin Newsom vetoed those bills, I mean, I was very disappointed. Like you said, these bills many didn't cost anything. You talked about the preferential admission. Also a bill to give preferential professional licenses to people who are from enslaved backgrounds. These are things that should happen because the damage was done. We already talked about it's a continuing harm. And if you can document that you are the from some family who has suffered this harm, you deserve to have reparatory justice. And so I think it's inexcusable that he vetoed those bills. I was very disappointed. The one bill he did allow go through was a $6 million package to study who could be eligible for the reparations. Well, I mean, we're studying who could be eligible. Well, what are they going to get? And to be honest, that's something that we are still working with the mayor here in Tulsa to make sure that we understand who's eligible to receive and make sure the right people receive it. So absolutely, we should continue to push Gavin Newsom. I'm like everybody else. I like to see how he's you know trolling the administration. Continue to do that.
And
But
Nicki Minaj, by the way, he's also trolling Nicki.
oh, he trolled Nicki Minaj. I
But I'm
missed
just
that
like,
one.
you're the trolling is one thing, but like
But that's
showing
not
us that you're with us is something
right.
completely different, you
That's not
know?
substantial policy that's going to move our communities
That's right.
forward in a comprehensive way. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about get a few people, a few jobs. We're not talking about put some black faces in high places. We're not talking about just the elite of us having opportunity. We're trying to get something that's going to bring up the entirety of our community. Because again, if we talk about Greenwood, it was about the entirety of the community. As to rest more, I think it was very interesting. And I don't want to step on the toes of those some friends of mine who working very hard in the state of Maryland and how they feel about the veto. But what I thought was very interesting, and I don't think people picked up on it, Westmore said he vetoed the bill because we already know what to do. All right, that's what he said. So my point would be, if I was in Maryland, I would say, okay, since you said we already know what to do, I would provide him legislation, specific legislation, and force him to veto that.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't want to do the study. You said we already have this information. Okay, here's the bills. Just like in California, they had a list of bills that Newsom vetoed. Give Westmore a list of bills and see, is it really true that he said I want to do the work? That's what he said. I'm gonna take the brother from his word. He said I want to do the work. I want to do more study. So I would love to see, and they have huge majorities. I understand in the Democratic majorities in Maryland. They could, and I don't know if they're in session, but as soon as they get in session, I would bring those reparations bills one by one and send them to Westmore and say, brother, we heard you. You said you didn't want to study. Here's the work, sign the bill. And then let's have a conversation after that.
That's it. And I think that is so important, again, because to your point, systemic, historic, and ongoing harm has been our story in this country. And it has not just been at the federal level. It has not just been at the state level. It has also been at the local level. So I appreciate your work, dear brother, at every level of government, all of your advocacy. It means the world. And so I want you to let people know how they can support your work. With Justice for Greenwood and beyond, especially in this holiday season. Y'all can't spend all your money at the Nike store. And y'all still supposed to be out of Target. So hopefully you got some money for
Well, I
Justice
tell
for
you, that
Greenwood.
Target, we've been out of it. It's been hurting Mia, but she's been staying strong. That's my
Good
wife, for
job,
those who
sis.
don't know. Listen, I would say three things real quickly as we about to wrap. Support redeemernationbook.com. Pick that up as a holiday gift. Go to justiceforgreenwood.org. Make a donation to the work. Sign up for our newsletter. And thirdly, I'm asking everybody that's listening. If we talked about Mother Fletcher, when she passed away, we lost so much. You have Mother Fletchers in your own family. I want you to right now make a plan for the holidays. When you're going to be with your elders, make a plan to get their oral history. Make a plan to sit down with them, turn on the phone, and record them. And these are the 5 questions. And you can go to Justice for Greenwood. We do genealogy. We can support. We have seminars on there. These are the 5 questions, though. Who are we? What is our names? Because sometimes our names have changed. It's spelled a different way. We don't understand all our family lines. We don't know where we migrated from. So number 1, who are we? Number 2, where all have we lived and why? Find out when you were living in Georgia or Mississippi or Oklahoma, and then why did you move? And where parts of the family went. Number 3, what did we build and what have we lost? You never know that business owner, that church, I found out in my family, my father's family, that I didn't know very well until I got grown. We built churches in the 19 teens that still stand, that still has a name on there. Jake Simmons, the Simmons Chapel, right? So find out, and then find out, number 4, what have we survived as a family? You know, is it a hurricane? Is it a tornado? Was a family member lynched? Was somebody laid off? Were we homeless at one point? Get your history. And number 5, from your elders, find out what do they want the future generations of your family to know. What values are important to them? What lessons are important to them? What unfinished work do they want to make sure that the great nieces and the great grandsons continue? So if you don't do anything else from this conversation today, I just encourage you to capture your own history and keep that for your own family, because our history and our families are the most important thing, and it's the only thing that we have that we can control, and it's what has sustained us for over 500 years here in the United States, or what is now known as the United States of America.
Absolutely. Attorney Damario Solomon-Simmons, my brother and friend, reparations advocate, truth teller, and now author. So make sure y'all go order that book, man. Redeem a Nation. D, happy holidays to you, my dear sister Mia, and happy Kwanzaa.
Same.
Shout out to those Kwanzaa principles. Think Greenwood, y'all. Get into it. Welcome home, y'all.
Peace.
Nobody knows the troubles I've seen,